So guys, the MG Windsor, which is trying to disrupt the market by introducing probably the first of its kind BaaS or battery as a service, the first impressions are definitely positive. It feels like a very organically designed car, very beautiful. It doesn't have any oddball proportions, looks very nice and premium when it's on the road, and while you're inside as well, it drives really nicely, very quiet on the inside, insulates you from the outside world very beautifully. What MG is doing with this car is they're offering a properly big car which is in the league of the likes of the Hyundai Creta in terms of its length, its width, and in fact it outstretches it in terms of its wheelbase. So there's ample space inside, and when you look at this interior, it's so open, so expansive, and the quality of the fit and finish. Also, if you look at bits like this faux wood here, this titanium insert here, which MG is calling soft gold, all of those things, this real massive screen here, all of those things really make you feel like you're sitting in something really special. Now, with a big body, how they have tried to bring the cost down is A, by offering battery as a service, which allows them to offer the car at a starting price of 9.99 lakh rupees, and secondly, by not offering too big a battery pack, which is essentially the biggest cost for a car. So the battery pack here is 38 kilowatt hour, and to put things in perspective, if you compare it with something like say the Nexon EV mid-range, that car comes with a 30 kilowatt hour or thereabouts of a battery pack. And if you compare it with something which is much bigger in terms of the battery pack like the Curvv EV, that one has a 55 kilowatt hour battery pack. So what they've done is they've tried to rationalize the price of the car by offering it a very decent battery pack which can be used for day-to-day purposes. What does it translate into? Well, the claimed ARA range on this car is 331 kilometers, and after having tested it and figured it out with the ratios of the remaining charge and the number of kilometers that we have done, we have come to the conclusion that if you exhausted the battery completely and you were not driving in sport mode, so you're either driving in the eco or the normal mode, you'll get a range of about 250 to 260 kilometers with the battery completely exhausted. You won't have anything left. So if you want to leave about 5% for emergencies, you would get anywhere from 220 to 230 kilometers of range, which is pretty good at this price, especially because this car drives so beautifully, and it's a very brisk car to drive too. And if you give it the shove, you do feel that you do get pressed into the back seat. So what I'm trying to say here is that it's a nice brisk car to drive. It's not wild in terms of acceleration like a few other cars are, and the reason for that is that the discharge rate and the acceleration levels have to be kept low if you want to extend the range over any given battery capacity. So in the real world, if you want to have that safety of about 5%, you'll be able to drive about 220 to 230 kilometers on this car, exhausting the battery 250 to 260 kilometers. 0 to 100 time on this car is slightly higher than 10 seconds, and all of those numbers add up beautifully, knowing the amount of space that it provides you, the comfort, because the ride quality is really plush. It goes over bad surfaces really nicely, feels like a very nicely set up car, has a long wheelbase, wide track, so feels very planted. The steering has a very nice feedback to it. It's not like that overly artificial steering wheels that you find on a lot of other electric cars. It feels nice, it feels planted, and I did a couple of double lane change maneuvers here. The tires hold up very well. It gets a very beautifully designed 18-inch set of wheels. So when the car is on the road, it makes people turn their head and give it another look. The back seat is fantastic, very nicely insulated. The one thing that doesn't go in its favor is the fact that it doesn't have the highest of the numbers in terms of the range, and the cars which are comparable in size like the Curvv or MG's very own MG ZS EV have a much higher range and bigger battery capacities, but you have to bear in mind that the price there is also much higher. And looking at what this car offers in terms of its feature set, in terms of the plushness, in terms of the premium interior, the exterior, I really think it's a fantastic deal. And the range also, if you're not someone who's going to plan going long distances on the highway, it can take care of your intercity and intracity needs also very well if you're not going to be making a round trip. You can use MG's eHub to plan your trip in advance, and you'll find a lot of charges along the way, so that can also be taken care of. Now, a few things that I don't like about this car. I really think that essential functions like ORVMs should be controlled by physical buttons and not through screens. And if I have to do that right now, I'll have to go to the screen and then press this button right here and then change the settings on my ORVM. I'm not okay with that. While you should set your mirrors before you start, you should always have the option of changing these settings manually whenever you want. Secondly, the headlight function also has to be controlled with this button on the screen here, which again is not something that I'm very fond of. It should be controllable through the stock itself. So these are a couple of things that I'm not very fond of. I really think that it's a safety related red flag and it should be addressed as soon as possible. The people here are not as well trained in terms of driving, and they need to be given all of these basic devices the way they are used to using it. But overall, the driving experience is fantastic. It drives beautifully, and for someone who's looking for an efficient electric car which is loaded to the gills with relevant features, I really think the MG Windsor makes a lot of sense. And if you're going to be buying an electric car, you simply cannot give this car a miss anymore. This one is that good. One thing that I want to mention before I talk about the features and the exterior and all of the other things, I'll explain the BaaS also, is that this is not an enthusiast's car. This is a family car, and as I mentioned, it handles reasonably well, and if you want to be taking it around a bend of corners, it can be a reasonable amount of fun. But this is not an out and out enthusiast's car. The top speed is limited at 160 kilometers per hour, and in all honesty, I really think that all the cars within this segment, I think the MG ZS being the only exception, none of the other cars are really punchy or really driver friendly or enthusiast friendly to drive. So in that sense, it's not lagging behind. But if you want a car that is the sportiest of the lot, I think MG's very own ZS is the pick of the lot. Now, for those of you who want to either extend the range to the maximum or want to enjoy the car to the maximum, you have this mode button here, and you can switch to the Eco Plus mode for the maximum range, because the discharge rate is reduced, acceleration is reduced, and the recuperation is set to heavy. So you can choose to Eco Plus for the maximum range, and Sports for the converse, where you want the maximum acceleration, and you can choose from light to heavy energy recuperation using these buttons here. One thing, you don't have any paddle shifters like you have on a few other electric cars, where you can choose those pedals to choose the recuperation mode. If you have to choose the recuperation mode from the 3 available, you have to go through the menus again. You don't have a paddle shifter here. Let's have a look at the key of this car as well, and it's finished in this tone of black and chrome. Feels nice, not very heavy, but finished very nicely. Lock, unlock and boot release buttons with these chrome embellishments. And of course, you don't have to take the key out of your pocket. You just have to approach the car, and the mirrors are also auto folding. Open the wide door. It doesn't open 90 degrees.
Best wishes for a safe and happy journey.
And you will get that message. Now, a very good thing for a not so expensive car, the quality of the materials, the fit and finish is fantastic, and the appointment of all of these plastics is also great. You have soft to touch materials here. As you can see on the top of the line variant, you have all 4 one touch up and down windows. As you can see at the back, they'll go all the way down and come all the way up with just the press of a button. And you have ambient lighting around the speakers, which looks fantastic in the night. All of these materials are hard plastics, but just look at this plastic here. The appointment of this shade also is fantastic. Unless you touch it, you won't be able to tell, and it looks really nice. You'll get this kind of treatment in real wood in some premium cars, and it does give it an air of premiumness. Door lock and unlock buttons are here. Now, before we get inside, you get electrical 6-way adjustment for seat on the driver side, but not on the passenger side. And before I enter, you do well to have a look at this beautiful quilting on the seats of the Windsor. They have been done in a rather unique and beautiful manner, and just by the way they have been made, they look very luxurious. Just look at that pattern, and that by itself lifts the premium quotient of the car by a fair margin. Let's get inside and see the wonders of the Windsor EV. Now, myself being 5 feet 10, as you can see, I didn't have to climb inside the car. For the really short ones of you, it may be a bit of climb, but I really think that the entry and exit from this car is really easy. Now, this Curvv plate that you see here is quite beautiful, but this is not standard equipment. This is an accessory. Also, as you can see, you have a dead pedal here, and the brake pedal and the accelerator are spaced out, so there is no fouling happening. This is the boot release. This is the electronic parking brake. And another great thing about this car is that you get a steering wheel which is both tilt and telescopically adjustable. So for a not so expensive car, it's a very good feature to be offered. Coming to the steering wheel here, it's a nice soft material wrapped 2-spoke steering wheel unit, and the controls here can be a little bit confusing. Now, to start off, I must begin with an omission here, which is the fact that you don't have any physical buttons for controlling the mirrors. So if you have to adjust the mirrors, you have to go to the screen and press home, and then you have to press this icon here and choose whether you want to be adjusting the left or the right mirror, and then using this button on the steering wheel you can control the mirror that you have chosen. I really believe that there should be a physical control for it. It's not. The steering wheel is a nice 2-spoke unit. It's covered in this nice leather. So on this control of the steering wheel, if you don't have the cruise control activated, so please listen to this carefully. If you don't have this cruise control activated, you can press this once to engage the controls of the left mirror. Press it again to bring the controls of the right mirror, and then if you press it again, you can bring the controls for the air conditioning. So right now, as you can see, I can control the air conditioning from this control on the steering wheel. If I press it again, as you can see, I can control the mirror there. I press it again and I can control the mirror there. So there is indeed a control, but you have to cycle through various different modes on the steering wheel, but there is no dedicated control for the mirrors. Now this control can be customized, and you can press this button here and choose from mute, online music, iCall, vehicle setting, source, driving mode or AVM to assign to this button on the steering wheel. It's assigned for the driving mode. I can choose from Sport, Eco Plus, Eco or normal mode just by pressing this button here. So right now it's assigned for driving modes, and you can choose from normal, sports, Eco Plus and Eco modes just by pressing this button. That apart, if you want to be engaging the cruise control, you press this button first, and then you can choose this notch and press it up or down to increase or decrease the speed by a factor of 5 kilometers. Now this button here is for the media controls. This one is for the volume, and you press it up and down for the volume, and the others are quite self-explanatory. You can press this to bring on the voice controls.
I'm listening.
And you can seek as well as go back to the previous menu by pressing this button. The seats are plush and big, and they are reasonably well bolstered. They are not the best bolstered seats that you have come across, but they do come with these adjustable headrests, and for the class of cars that this car represents, I really think that they have been done very, very well. Apart from that, if you have a look at the screens, you have 2 screens, one of which is this mega 15.6-inch screen, which is the biggest in class, and then you have this smaller 10.1-inch screen, which is similar to the one that we have seen on the MG Comet as well. Now, while this button here can be used for the media volume, if you long press it, it can be used to change between the screens that you have here. So right now you have the power output as well as the tire pressure monitoring system as well as the motor speed, etc. You long press it again, and then it goes back to its function of media volume. So this can be a little bit confusing for someone who doesn't know about it. I'll do a separate video of how to use these controls, but you have to be mindful that these controls are not very simple, and you'll have to go through a bit of a learning curve. Now, as you can see, you have the ready mode, which basically means that once you come inside the car and press the brake, the car is ready. However, if you want to turn it off, you have to press this button and the car will be turned off.
Goodbye.
You press the brake and the car will turn on again.
Best wishes for a safe and happy journey.
You can choose the driving modes from this stock here, P, R and D, and you can choose the wiper modes from this stock here. As you can see, there is no stock for headlamps, and that again is a bit of an omission. So while you can day flash using this like so, as you can see, I can day flash, but for changing the settings on the headlight, whether you want it on low beam, whether you want it auto, or you want to turn it off, you again have to go to the screen, which I think is not the right way. They should have been a stock. Now let's have a look at all the functions and controls of this massive 15.6 inch screen as well. And to start off, the response is not the quickest, and I think the processor on this should have been a little bit faster. So it is a little bit laggy. It's not like, it'll freeze or something, but it's not the quickest of the responses either. It takes a wee bit of time sometimes when you're moving from one screen to the next one. And let's start with the 360-degree camera. And as you can see right now, you can expand it to the entire screen. As you saw, it took a little bit of a time before it moved from the small screen to the wide screen. Let me do it again. And the resolution is okay. You move to the 3D mode, and as you can see, you can move the car about in whatever angle you want to see it in. It's not as high res as the Curvv camera that we saw, but it's okay. This car is not very expensive. You can also choose one of the pre-decided angles. Then you can also have a look at it in 2D. So all of these features are there. You can have the parking assist lines in off, dynamic, static or both. And you can have the surround view camera auto exit at 20 kilometers per hour. So that's the surround view camera. And then apart from that, as I mentioned, you can have the controls for the mirrors and the lights from here. You can have the controls for the music, and you can choose from JioSaavn, which is offered as a subscription here, your own Bluetooth music or USB socket. Now going into the settings, you can choose from one of the tone effects, which is essentially one of the equalizers, and you have so many different equalizers to choose from. Also, you can choose from the tone field, which basically is fade, so you can choose the focus where you want the sound to be going. And apart from that, you have all of these settings here: Bluetooth, wallpaper, USB storage, Wi-Fi, MG voice, which is voice commands. And voice commands, you can have at least 100 different commands for this car, and it has 80 plus connected car features as well. You have 4 driving modes and 3 energy recovery modes to choose from. You have your AC controls. If you press here, you will be taken to the AC control screen, and you can choose from various different modes. And for a car which is in this class, you also have seat ventilation, but you don't have any physical controls for it. You have to control it using these software led buttons. So all of the climate controls are sitting right here. Then you also have something called cabin modes. You go to the cabin modes and you have either valet mode, which essentially is the mode that you put on if you're giving your car to a valet, or you go to the quiet mode, where if you have someone in your car who's sleeping in the back seat, you can reduce the volume at the back seat by a significant margin, or just completely turn it off. And the front volume is also reduced so that someone sitting in the back seat can sleep quietly. Then you can go to the EV page to see the remaining battery. I don't need this use of it because you already see the remaining range here, and you can also see the carbon dioxide that you have saved by changing the tab here. Now MG has also partnered with Jio for news, games and OTT, and as you can see, you have some apps for news as well as you can download games. And if you have a set-top box, you can get the status of your car in terms of how much it has charged, and you can also book a test drive using your set-top box. So all of that is new here. Now about this screen again, what you cannot see is the swipe down menus, and once you bring down the swipe down menu, you will see that you have the control for this moonroof as well. And this moonroof, by the way, is not a sunroof, and you cannot open the window pane, which is I think a good thing, because A lot of people use it for making their children step up and peek out of it, which is not safe at all. So you can have all the light, but you cannot open it for ventilation. Apart from that, you have the control for various different volumes, and you also have the control for the brightness of the instrument console and the brightness of the screen as well. Another important function of this screen is that you can go to vehicle settings, and here you can choose the ambient lighting color of your car from one of the various different 256 colors available. You can keep it constant or make it random. So you can have your headlight settings here, you can have the driving modes etc. controlled from here as well, and you can control the sunshades, and the steering wheel button can also be assigned a function from this screen itself. Finally, you have some more settings here, but the more important thing that you need to know is that this swipe down brings you a very quick control to a lot of important functions. The audio is provided by Infinity. It's a 9-speaker system. On every door you have 2 speakers, which makes it 8 speakers inside the cabin, and you have a woofer at the back. And the sound quality for a car this class is absolutely fantastic. Now to start off, Vipul will show you that the door panels have ample space. So talking about practicality and storage spaces, the MG Windsor really scores very highly. So let's first see the glove box, which is not something to write home about. It's okay. It does not even have a cooling function, but that's where the negatives about the MG Windsor, and it starts stamping its authority. You have as many as 3 cup holders here, which of course can also double up as a storage space for whatever your wallet or cell phone or whatever you want. Apart from that, you also have this massive cavernous storage space underneath your armrest, and you also have a 12-volt power socket here, and it also has this nice soft armrest, which really is fantastic and very premium for this segment of cars. Not just that, this area itself can store stuff like your wallet, your cell phone, and a lot of other knickknacks. And this is also where you have the space for your wireless charging, and you can just slide in a really big smartphone to be wirelessly charged here. You can also use this space to store another cell phone or a wallet, and this actually is a very usable space. In case you thought all of that space is not enough, MG has provided this massive tray here where you can just pop in whatever you like, and it can be very neatly hidden by this tambour door. And once you slide it back, you'll see that there is a Type A and Type C USB socket sitting right here. So power sources come aplenty, and in terms of practicality, the MG Windsor scores really highly. And apart from all of that, you also have these 2 additional cup/bottle holders. And talking about the quality of the interior itself, you have this entire stuff made of soft to touch material, and the dash just expands all the way forward almost to the bonnet, and it's a really expansive, very beautifully laid out and very spacious feeling to be here. It feels like you are sitting in a car which is much bigger than it actually is, and the sense of airiness and the space that you have here is absolutely amazing. And this soft gold insert along with these horizontal lines looks very beautiful. The AC vents are also nicely controlled, and I really think that it's very tastefully done for a car that has been designed in China. And not just that, if you look at my knee here, there is a lot of room for it to move about, ditto for the person who's sitting on the passenger side. So there's a lot of roominess, airiness, practical cubby hole, and the appointment of plastics and the materials and the colors is also very tastefully done. So this car actually comes across as a more premium car than what you would think of it, and there are absolutely no complaints with the equipment that we have on offer here. The few things that I would want to point out is that you don't have controls for headlamps, you don't have controls for the mirrors, which should be dedicated, and finally the screen itself is a little bit laggy. In terms of other functionalities, you have an electrochromatic mirror. On both the sides you have a vanity mirror with illumination, and this is the light that you have up front. In terms of safety, this car comes with 6 airbags as standard, and on the screen right now you can have a look at all the safety features that it comes loaded with. The safety ratings of this car are not out, but knowing the record of MG slash its parent company, this car is also sold as the Wuling Cloud EV elsewhere. Also looking at the crash test record of the MG ZS, we are quite sure that when it's crash tested, it's going to come out in flying colors. Another great thing about the MG Windsor is that the doors open and shut with a solid thud, and I quite like the door handles on the inside as well. They have been integrated very beautifully with this grab handle here, and they look really nice. As I mentioned before, the one touch up and down controls are available for the person who's sitting in the back seat as well. There is ample storage space in the door panels at the rear, and as you can see, it's a completely flat floor, so you can move about your feet without any problem. And this amount of knee room and leg room for a car this class is absolutely astounding. I have never seen this amount of knee and leg room in a car which is priced this low. So the space is absolutely fantastic, it's exceptional. And as you can see, this seat here can recline all the way to 135 degrees, which means that it actually is a fantastic proposition in terms of comfort for the backbenchers as well. As I mentioned earlier, the suspension is fantastic, the insulation is fantastic. So even if you want to use this car as a chauffeur-driven unit, I really think it presents itself fantastically well. Not just that, as I mentioned earlier, the quilted seats both up front and at the rear have been done beautifully well, and not just are they very comfortable, they look smashing as well. As an icing on the cake, you get all three adjustable headrests, you get this armrest with twin cup holders, and you also get this dedicated 3-point seat belt for the middle passenger. You get reading lights, soft retract handles. Although I don't see a coat hook here, you do have some storage spaces here as well in the form of these magazine holders. You have an AC vent and you have this Type-C socket along with this really massive storage space where you can put your wallet or cell phone. Finally, if someone had any doubts about the space here, the headroom here is also quite generous, and even if you're a 6-footer, you will not have any problem whatsoever. And if I had a couple of complaints up front, I don't have any, especially for the price range while sitting in the back seat. So that was about the interior and the features, and on the outside also, that space, that enormous space inside has been brought out because the wheelbase of this car is longer than even the Creta. So for the price, it's actually offering itself as a pretty big car. Now, if you look at the design of this car, overall, it's a cab forward design. So you don't have a very long bonnet, and that's the reason why you have additional space inside too. It's a very cutesy, very soap dish kind of a design, but it's very practical, very organic. And despite not being very usual, it's not oddball either. As you can see, it's like a cascading design where you have this cutesy little top bonnet followed by this big bumper. So you have two steps. You have these blinkers, this LED DRL, a beautiful chrome line, a big MG badge. This MG logo on the bonnet is illuminated and it looks really nice in the night. And you have these chrome embellishments inside of the headlight as well as here as well. You have chrome embellishments here, although some things like this bit here and these bits here are accessories, they are not standard. This part here is also an accessory. Now, you would do well to know that you don't have front parking sensors here, but you do have a very nice 360-degree camera which is reasonably high res. You don't have ADAS here, and you have this little bulb here, this light here, which works as a cornering bulb. You have an LED projector headlamp, and overall all of this works well, but you need to know that if you have to turn the headlight on or off, you have to do it through the screen. There is no direct stock to do that. The wipers are automatic, and since it has started raining, as you can see, they have come on. Coming towards the side, I quite love these 18-inch wheels, and the car comes with discs both up front and at the rear, and the ground clearance also for a CUV is very generous at 186 mm unladen. So even over bad surfaces, you'll not face any problems whatsoever. You have a 360-degree camera, ORVM mounted blinkers and flush fitting door handles, which seems to have become a norm. I'm not very fond of them because I really think it just adds an additional point of failure. These are electrical bits, and the less electrical bits in a car, the more reliable it is. They do look beautiful and there is no arguing about that. Then you have this really nice chrome lining over the window line. And overall, from the side, the car looks really nice and well proportioned. The roof line doesn't swoop down too drastically, which means that at the back, you have ample headroom. And generally, from the side, you can really see how long this car is. The wheels are at the ends, and all of that lends it a very nice, very proportionate look. And just to have an understanding of how big this car is, I'll stand next to it and you'd be able to figure out how tall, myself being 5 feet 10, how long it is. The rear window area, as you can see, is enormous, and you also have this quarter panel, so you don't have any form of claustrophobia coming in. And to add to the light coming in, you have this beautiful moonroof. Mind you, as I mentioned before, you don't have any moving panels here, so you won't be able to move it, and that's a very good thing for a lot of parents in India. Make their kids peep out through that hole, and it's not advisable at all. Coming towards the rear, there's one thing that I don't like, and that's the fact that this car doesn't have a wash and wipe. How is that going to work out in monsoons, especially in areas like Maharashtra, where there is mud on the road and it's literally not possible for you to drive if you don't have a rear wash and wipe? It's an omission for me, and that feature should have been there for sure. You also have this connected LED tail lamp. You have the Windsor branding, and it's a very clean design. If you see, you don't have too many cuts and creases, and at the bottom you have this glossy black with a chrome lining here, and all of this has been done rather well for a Chinese car, because Chinese cars do have a reputation for having too many cuts and creases and too many embellishments. The entire design of this car is rather tastefully done. I quite like it. Let's have a look at the boot as well, which is supposed to be an enormous 600 plus liters. But what you would do well to know is that if you look at the boot from here, it's definitely not 600 liters. In my opinion, this boot size here would be about 400 liters or thereabouts, give or take 20 to 25 liters. Let me just remove this luggage from here and give you a better understanding of how it adds up to 600 liters. The additional boot space is released when you lift this flap here, and underneath you have a massive boot area which is remaining. But it's also by virtue of the fact that you don't have a spare wheel here, and I would have definitely wanted a spare wheel on this car. Spare wheel is something that I would always want on my car, and there is none present here. This here is your charging cable, and this is what it looks like any other typical charging cable. Is this usable as a storage area? Well, I think you won't be able to put any big suitcases here or even small suitcases, but it can indeed be used for your haversacks or small bags, which are a little bit more squishable, if you will. Let's bring the boot down, which of course is not powered. Now this is essentially a stop light, but these two lights that you see around it are the reverse lights, and when you put the car in reverse, white lights flanking this red light come on. And then these are the blinkers, and these two combined are the brake lights. What do you think of this rather unique cluster? Do let me know. And of course you have this high mount stop lamp here as well. To wrap things off, you have this illumination here, and the back seat is also 60-40 split. So if you don't find the so-called 600 plus liters of boot space sufficient, you can drop the 60 or the 40 side to liberate even more boot space. Now the 38 kilowatt hour battery on the MG Windsor comes after 39 stringent safety tests. It also gets battery cooling and heating system, where it's cooled by a liquid cooling system, and it can also be heated if the temperatures go down. It gets an IP67 water and dust resistance certification, and if you're renting it out, it also comes with an unlimited mileage warranty. So the battery is MG's concern, and if anything happens to it, you don't have to bother about it. The car also comes with a warranty for 3 years and unlimited kilometers for the car as well as the motors. and you don't really have to bother about the car for 3 years. So this 3 years warranty is a part of the 333 plan, where you get 3 years of unlimited warranty, 3 years of roadside assistance, and 3 labor-free services. Now apart from this, if you own the car properly for 3 years and up to 45,000 kilometers, you'll also get up to 60% of your car's value back, and that is a buyback program that MG is offering. It's available in 4 colors: turquoise green, pearl white, clay beige, and starburst black. And you can have it in 3 different variants: Excite, which is base; Exclusive, which is mid; and Essence, which is the top variant.
The features of all these variants can be seen on your screen right now.
Now, if you plug this car in DC superfast chargers, you'll be able to charge your car from 0 to 80% in 55 minutes. If you put it on an AC fast charger, you'll be able to charge it from 0 to 100% in 6.5 hours. And of course, you can use the eHub by MG for a unified charging experience, where you can charge from any of the publicly available charging spots. You also get a portable charger with your car. Now, a word about the battery as a service as well. And you do well to know a few things before you go ahead and think that this car is available only for 10 lakh rupees. No, the car is for 10 lakh rupees plus whatever the cost of the battery would be.
And if you want to buy the car outright, the prices can be seen on the screen right now.
Now you'll have to pay your taxes, that is registration as well as insurance, on the total cost of the car, which is about the BaaS. What exactly is happening here is a financier is coming in and you are paying the EMI of the car if you take a loan for the shell. And for the battery, this is a financial product basically. You have to understand that BaaS is a financial product. So someone is financing the battery, and what is happening here is that finance period is really long. So you can extend it by as much as 10 years. And that is the reason why you are paying the battery rental, which is essentially a kind of an EMI. And it's broken down in a manner where you're paying, say, 3.5 rupees per kilometer, or whatever the case may be, which is the most suitable for you. So if you want to be driving for less kilometers, you'll want to pay maybe slightly more per kilometer. And if you want to be driving more kilometers per month, you'll probably want to be paying slightly less per kilometers with some capping.
Rough details of various plans and various conditions associated with BaaS can be seen on your screen right now.
A few other questions that you may have: what happens if you want to sell the car? Well, a catalog, basically a plan for what happens if you've used the car for a certain amount of time, all of that is ready with MG. You just have to see at that point in time how much of the price of the battery have you paid in terms of the rental, and you can either sell it outright by paying the rest of the price for the battery, or just pass the rental on to the person who is buying it next. So they are not going to be arm twisting or handcuffing you. You can actually sell the car to whoever you want, and just because you're renting the battery doesn't mean that you can not sell the car to someone. Another important thing: if you're the first owner, you will get an unlimited mileage warranty. But in case you sell the car, that gesture, that kind gesture by MG, it will be nullified, and the next buyer will not have such a generous offer on the battery warranty. The battery warranty in that case will be reduced to up to 8 years. I think that if you own it for 3 years, you'll be ending up paying about 1.9 lakh rupees for the usage, which is not really bad, because each month 1500 kilometers is about the average that an everyday metro uses his car for. So 2 lakh rupees for a period of 3 years doesn't look too bad to me. And looking at the kind of features and the space and the plushness of the interior and the drive quality that this car is offering, I'm really impressed. I really think that this car, in terms of the way it looks, the quality, the interior, the features, its drive feel, it really comes across as a really good value for money proposition. It's a quality car and you should definitely wait up. And I really believe, based on my experience with this car, is that it's a car that's going to delight you. And an electric car for an entire family is something that this comes across, and it's definitely better than something like, say, the Nexon EV. It's better than the XUV400, and I would go ahead and say it's better than the Curvv EV also in terms of its drive quality. The range is not as much, but the feeling from the steering wheel and the plushness of the interior is a notch above the Curvv as well. So if you want to be buying something, please wait for all the prices to be revealed. Go ahead, take a test drive, compare everything, and then make your decision, because this actually comes across as a very comfortable, very practical family car. I really hope I was able to answer most of your questions, if not all of them. Still, if there's something remaining, please put them down in the comment section. I'll be very happy to answer them. And until next time, this is your friend Amit Changani signing off. Rev hard, rev free, and ride safe.